Now we shall try to know women and their connectivity with the novels. The situations were not so good and not so familiar when it comes to the understanding or allowing the women to read the novels. Most of the people, especially we all know that Indian society was a male dominated society. It is a patriarchal society where we have male member taking over the entire control of the family. So most of the decisions are taken by the male members in the family. Even today also we have in most of the families the same thing. Only in exceptional cases, very few families. But now there is a freedom for women to discuss and to talk about the issues. But during that time also, male dominated society being headed by the male member of the family. So most of the times the decisions all are taken by the head of the family, that is father or husband. So most of the husbands and most of the fathers would have an opinion. Most of the times they are having an opinion that we should not allow women to read the modern novels, because in the modern novels they are explaining not only the modern society, the way the relationships are there between the husband and wives, between the lover and the beloved one. So the lover and the beloved one, so all these things, it is giving an open face for the woman to say whether she would like to be in a relationship or she would like to break up the relationship. So these all things were in the brains of the people that women may get polluted very soon. Women are very sensitive. So by reading these kind of novels, they may become very changed in their mindset. So the soon influential people according to the men are women and children. And most of the people used to avoid women reading any of the novels, and next, because they don't want to get them influenced by the novels. The second point is that most of the novels are kept out of the reach of children. So the novels are kept out of the reach of the children so that children also will not get influenced by the novels. But children would try to read the books often by stealing them and without the knowledge of the parents. That's how they started to read. And it's not that only the men books are being published in the market. Many of the women also came forward to give their contributions towards them. Initially they were writing poems, later they started to write the biographies, then autobiographies, and then the novels. So like that, women also started to put their pen and blot it down and write something and bring into the picture what are the actual problems that they started to face. So this all brought into reality what are the actual things that are happening during that period. And we have some example here. Rokhaya Hussain, after her husband passed away, when she started to be widowed, she set up a school, a girls' school, in which she started to contribute for the society. So with this, she became a role model for the entire woman, and she started to write books in order to encourage the women to be independent. So in her sarcastic style, she wrote a book called Sultana's Dream in 1905, and the other book was Padamarg. So after writing these two books, she wanted to explain that it's not always that men who take the initiative, women also have to take the initiative. And she went on to an extent by explaining, like, if men is replaced by women, what would be the situation, what are the conditions, that all she explained in her novels. And she wanted to highlight the role of the woman in the society. That's why she tried a very large level to influence the women and asking them to be independent. And it's a time to react. It's not only the way to get suppressed by somebody. You need to start up and talk something and to raise your voices. But still we have some examples where women are still facing problems. See here, Hannah Mullins, when she wrote a book called Karuna O Fulmanor Vibarian. In this, she explains very clearly that she has been writing secretly this book because she is afraid that her husband would not allow her to write the book, or her father-in-law or the elders would not allow her to write the book. Later, we also have one more example like Saila Bala Ghosh Jaya. Saila Bala Ghosh Jaya also mentioned that she has been always protected by her husband. That is the only reason why she is able to complete the book. If not, she might have been stopped by writing the books. So this all brings for us the picture that women are not given free hand to access the novels. Children are not given free hand to access the novels. The reason behind this is that the children or the women are the most easily influential person in the society. Men were determined, strong according to the people of that time. So they do things very perfectly, but women and children are fragile. They are very delicate. They get influenced by books what they read, and that too in the modern books. When these modern books are discussing about the relationships, whether to have relationships, whether to break the relationships between the husbands and wives, the romantic relationships, understanding the friends, looking at the society, the way you dress up, the modern ways of thinking. So all these things, people are scared. What this impact would be on the minds of the younger generations. So they used to hide the books from the reach of the children. Because they are hiding the books, the children got fascinated to read those books. So these people started to search that books which are hidden and read them when the parents were not there, or unknowingly to the parents. Somehow women managed to write their own contribution also to the novels instead of just reading the novels which are written by the men. So they also started to give their significant contributions by writing books. They faced a lot of problems. We have seen an examples of Rokeya Hussain or Hannah Mullens or Saila Bala. All these people have made a remarkable contribution, though they faced a lot of problems. Now, the caste practices and the lower castes and the minorities. How is the caste system practiced? We will like to understand and throw light on what are the problems that are faced by the people, and later how did the writers brought them into novels and how did they want to bring that in their understanding. So for that, it would be a best example to take Indulekha, a love story. Indulekha was a very beautiful lady who was a spellbounding beauty, and she belongs to the community of Namboothiri Brahmins of Kerala, who are being very special privileged classes in the society. According to that time, they are the highest category of caste during in the Kerala existence. So the upper caste people are Namboothris, and the Nayars are considered as the little bit lower when compared to the Namboothiri Brahmins, because Namboothiri Brahmins are acting as landlords, and they are landlords, whereas Nayars are the tenants who worked very hard and earned their own incomes. So that's how both are economically strong, the strong upper caste communities itself, but there is a controversy in their marriage alliance between the Namboothris and the Nayars. So our writer tries to bring out the comparison by writing a book in which he brought the characters of Indulekha and Madhavan. Indulekha and Madhavan belongs to Nayars community, whereas Indulekha belongs to Namboothiri Brahmins community. So most of the times we prefer to marry our own community people. Even today we have many of the people preferring to marry their own community people. So Suri Namboothiri, who belongs to the same community of Indulekha's community, wanted to marry her, so he came. So this turns to be a very sarcastic situation where a person who was not qualified, not well educated like of Indulekha, not very beautiful or like good looking when it compared to Indulekha, he comes to look after her and he expresses the view that he wants to marry. Though being of the same caste, Indulekha rejects Suri and prefers to marry Madhavan. Madhavan and Indulekha, after marriage, they move to Madras to establish their family relationship away from the influence of the caste prejudices, and later Madhavan joins the civil services. That's how the story ends, and in this the writer wants to bring up the understanding that marriage is something which has to be understood between two individuals, and the caste system doesn't have anything to impact on them. It should be modernized. The caste influence have to be reduced. The ideologies of the people have to be synchronized. That he want to bring in, and he want to make the people to understand that marriage alliance only can disrupt and eradicate this caste system completely. And later, when we move on to the other stories, like when we talk about the upper caste people, not this story. Generally, Indulekha was a bit away from the traditional formalities. But the other most of the writers who came from the upper caste people always used to write the books upholding the greatness of the upper caste and lowering down the cadre of the lower caste people. But when it comes to the lower caste people coming up, Potheri Kunjambu, a North Kerala who belongs to the lower caste community, he writes a book called Saraswati Vijayam. In this Saraswati Vijayam, he brings the importance of education in an understandable manner to all the people, which was released in 1892. This book of Saraswati Vijayam is a book in which he is able to understand what are the practical problems that are going to be associated when there is a education available for you and when there is no education for you. Here he would try to highlight the story of what happened for them. Like he tries to bring out the story of a young boy who was working under a landlord who was belonging to the Nambudiri community person. Under him he is working. So he could not tolerate the pressure and the atrocities which are faced towards him. So he runs away from the village and he gets well educated and returns as a judge to the local court. In the meanwhile, the villagers filed a complaint against the landlord and they started to interrogate him, and finally the case comes to hearing after a long time, where this young boy who ran away from there, whose case is running as missing, who has been considered as killed person by the landlord, the judgment will be given. Before the judgment is given and afterwards the identity will be revealed. So he feels very sorry, the landlord, and then he apologizes and then he corrects his behavior. So that's how education can liberate us from all the barriers of caste, color, creed, race and sex. So that it should be added for us and we should get benefited from that. That's what the writer Kunjambu want to focus and explain to all the people by bringing this understanding to the people on a larger scale. And later, when we move on to the other aspects, like in 1920s, we have a book written by Advaita Mala Burmans. Advaita Mala Burmans belong to the lower caste, where in his book Titansh Eki Nadirnam, Titansh Eki Nadirnam. Titansh Eki Nadirnam is a book which was released in 1956. In this book, he explicitly discussed about the particular subcaste called Mala. This subcaste Mala, where he describes the story of a fisherman and the different dialects used by the fishermen and the situations which happened for a fisherman family. A fisherman family who gets recently married and they were separated after their early marriage days. So a boy will be born for them, that boy naming Ananta. So he also will be turning himself into a fisherman. He faces a lot of problems in the society, and that's so through this man, this particular boy, the writer want to bring in what are the problems that are being encountered by this boy being in the lower caste community, what are the problems that he faced, what his family is facing, how the family got broke up, what are the other additions, what are the feelings of the upper caste people, how they used to demoralize this boy. All these things were discussed, and not only this, the culture of the Malas has been discussed, the Holi and the Kali Puja were explicitly discussed, and later he also ends the story up saying that the river has dried and brought the story to an end, where the Ananta also passed away because they lost their occupation, because they are basically fishermen people, they lost their occupation. So we have discussed about the Titansh. Titansh has been a special book in which the writer itself belongs to the very lower caste community. That's the reason why he explained explicitly and detailedly about the fisher community people and the Mala community people, what problems they have been facing. And later, now moving on to the other famous writers, till that time the writing did not become very good place in the literatures. It could not get a very appealing place in the literatures, but it is only with the contributions of Vaikom Mahmud Bashir in Malayalam, who got an enormous publicity for his books. He has been a remarkable first well-known writer in Malayalam of the later period. He was actually belonging to Malayalam and he studied only up to 5th standard. So how can you expect a 5th standard person or a boy who would imagine the world to a very large extent? Why did he leave the school in the 5th standard? He left the school in the 5th standard and participated in the Salt Satyagraha. The Salt Satyagraha is a momentum which started during when he is studying in 5th class. Then later on, he went on traveling to North and South India, and later he traveled entire up to Arabia in the ships, where he got to interact with the people of Hindus, Muslims and all the other communities of people, where the real problems are there, where the real poverty condition was present, where the atrocities were in extreme phase, he recorded all these things as short stories and novels, and he added sarcastic style for this one, and he released them into the market. When these books are published, they gave him a wide range of appeal from the people, like this is an understanding, and this sarcastic nature also made the people to feel shame that what is actually being practiced was a wrong practice. So that's how Bashir made a remarkable contribution through his books. So the books started to bring in the questioning of the actual caste system, actual discrimination basing on the caste system. The lower caste and the minorities really faced lot of problems and lot of difficulties because of the caste system. Now we shall see the nation and its history. How did the nation acquire its historical culture? Let us see here. Most of the times the administrators or the so-called Britishers used to describe the Indians as weak, divided, dependent on the Britishers. So often Indians are termed as they are weak people, they are not targeted people, they are not divided, they are not at all united, they never be united at all, so they are always divided, and they are dependent on the ideas of the Britishers. So that's how they used to feel them. And later, to come out of all these prejudices and to prove them that we are also Indians who are independent of the influence of the Britishers, of influence of the modern nature, we ourselves have our own culture, our own identity, our own ideology of thinking, our own way of writing the novels, and make the people to impress with their novels. So in Bengal, the first attempt was made by Marathas and Rajputs to focus that they are pan-Indians. Pan-Indians meaning here gives us that pan-Indianism, showing that Indians all are one. We as men of brave, heroic and sacrifice nature. In this, explaining the concept of Bengal, that they takes the writer of Maratha kingdom Shivaji, written by Buddhadev Mukho Padahai's book, in which he explains in the Anguriya Binimoy. Anguriya Binimoy is a book which was written explaining the greatness of Shivaji. Shivaji has been a great warrior who fought many battles, but he was attacked frequently by Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb is a Mughal ruler who is having a very large army, and more than 3/4 of the India has been under his control. Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, all these countries were also under his control. So he want to attack Shivaji. So he want to crush Shivaji, make him Shivaji as an house prisoner, and he want to bring them under his control by bringing it Shivaji under his control, the Maratha Empire. But Shivaji was advised by Man Singh, the commander of Aurangzeb, to surrender himself. But Shivaji escaped from the house imprisonment. He came back again and he fought the battle. So these kind of stories were explained to the people in a very detailed manner to bring inspiration for the people to fight for the Indian national movement. So these inspirations have always been a great part to play in the day-to-day lives during that moment when the Indian national movement of freedom struggle is going on. So that's how the writers have contributed on a very larger scale. It's not only on this point, it was Bankim's Anandamath also has been a significant contribution for the people, wherein the writers explained about the Indians' greatness, the sacrifices, the Indians belonging to one nature, our previous culture, our own identity was always a binding force for the Indians to be as a one. So now the point is, are the Indians one nation or not? What is the necessity for us to claim ourselves to be one by taking history? What is the problem for us? Why we are not united? Why are we treated as divided people? Why are we called as weak people? Why are we always called as dependent people? These are all answers we need to find out. Now, moving on to understanding that Anandamata written by Bankim's, where he explained clearly that the Hindu militia, Hindu attacking the Muslim kingdom and establishing the Hindu rulers. So that's how the Indians are trying to project their past heroes to be great, to inspire the people to fight for their nation, that we all belong to our great culture and great heritage. So we are not like this, we are not weak, we are not dependent. That's how the message has been spread by many of the people in Bengal. But moving on to the famous writer of Premchand, who never wrote anything great about the heroic past. He completely rejected the heroic nature of the past. He want to make the people to understand that history is important, past is important, but at the same time, future also has to be secured. Your future should be with a great path. That great path you should build, eliminating the caste discriminations, eliminating the poverty, build a healthy and rich, prosperous society which brings equality. So, in order to bring these points in this Premchand's books, we find meeting people, aristocrat people's discussions, middle class professional people's discussions, and women, a strong committed woman, a modern woman, her attitude, her importance, her way of reactions, all these things are portrayed very well by Premchand. Premchand never ever wrote about the heroic pasts or the ballads. He always tried to jump into the lives of the people, study about the lives of the people, and then connect them to the society and bring out the practical problems what they are facing at that point of time. So like that, he used to bring the problems of the past into existence. Now we shall see one of the book which is very famous, written by him, Rangabhumi. Rangabhumi is a book which was written by him, wherein he selects the hero of the novel to be a beggar. Fantastic point. See, how do you message a character saying that he is a beggar who is helpless financially, and how can he be a hero of a novel? And this novel is very famous in India. So the beggar being the hero, he belonged to the complete untouchable caste of Sudras. In India, we have the Chaturvarna system existing from more than 5000 years. The Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Sudras. But initially, this caste system has been kept basing on their work nature, but not on their birth. Later on, it became to be the birth importance. That's how it became many problematic for us now. So, the beggars who belong to the untouchable caste or the Sudras, a beggar owns a land, which land has been taken over very forcibly by the officials of that time in order to establish a tobacco factory. So, this beggar could not fight because he is economically and financially weak. He could not have strength because he is basically a very weak person who do not have even his daily needs or daily food coming to him regularly. So, he is dependent on others. So, he tries to beg, wandering to various places. So, even though he pleaded them, he requested them, he bowed his head for them, requesting to leave his land and do their industrialization, but the tobacco industry people have forcefully took over the land and then established the tobacco industry. So, industrialization brought the loss for the beggar's life, because now everything is lost for him. So, somehow we get a question like how industrialization is impacting the lives of the people. For whose benefit is it is going on? Is it at the cost of the benefit of the others' whole life? Or is it only for the benefit of the people who are belong to a very rich class community? It is only the vague promise that it will bring development for all sections of the people. These kind of all questions were posed into the brains by Premchand's writings. Even Gandhiji's ideologies and inspirations were being well connected with Premchand's books. When we read the books, we get Gandhiji's ideologies and all. One more story which was inspired was Godan. Godan means the gift of the cow. In 1936, this book was released. This is another very famous book released that time, because Hori and Dania are husband and wife who are peasants. These husband and wife peasants were always trying to safeguard their farmland, and these farmlands were taken over by the village officials, by the court, but all the officers, everybody turns against them and try to grab their land. When they were trying to grab their land, they will become homeless, they will become landless, but still they have their cow to safeguard them. That's how they save their life and they remain in a dignified manner, though the entire thing has been destroyed from them. So that's how Premchand tries to bring the reality picture into existence of the readers. So readers can connect themselves what is actually happening in the society by reading the books of Premchand. So now, in order to conclude, it would be right to say that we have covered from the origin of the novels to the modern day of understanding. The novels were initially originated in England, then we moved our attention towards the growth of novels in India. So the novels have been an inspiring story for all the people. But it has also brought the other side of life into reality. Not all the novels have picturized or real or exactly reality has been written, but some reality has been brought into light by bringing into the novelty or the novels into books or been printed. So these novels getting printed brought into a live evidences for us. So what's happening for us? So this also explored the new ways of the people, the new ideas of the people, to get connected with a large number of people, and also to bring a better understanding of Indian society on a very larger scale. These all things are brought into existence because of these novels. So novels have always given a chance for us to understand, to also to bring together same liking people, same genre people, and also make the people to understand and aware of modern happenings and modern developments in the society, the thought process of the people, the thought nature of the society, how a woman should be, how a man should be, what are the idealistic characters, what is modernization, how modernization also can go in blending with the traditional values. All these things were brought into light because of the bringing of novels into existence. This all happened only because of the invention of the printing machine, which made possible of printing the books in large number at very short time at very reducible cost.